In 1926, a newspaper reporter from New York City, having heard of Mr. Carter's proposition, visited Coalwood and filed this copy. Mr. Carter owns lock, stock, and barrel the model coal town of Coalwood. Houses, stores, churches, police, clergy, and medical services, all that makes up the life of a miner. It is a town of remarkable contrast to the surrounding villages, where squalor and poverty are their world. With houses painted and surrounded by flower gardens and lawns, Coalwood looks more like an alpine village than the begrimed coal towns of most of America. The proposition depended on everybody following Mr. Carter's rules. They were few, unwritten, and unbreakable. One of them had to do with what happened to a miner's family when he was killed. I first observed it in practice when I was 6 years old and in the second grade of the Coalwood School. We were reading from a book titled The Wind in the Willows, a tale of a toad who could drive an automobile. I liked the book, mostly because the toad was smart and used a lot of big words. I think all of my fellow classmates wished we might also grow up and be as smart as that toad, even though he kept wrecking his car. Mr. Toad was just about to wreck it again when Mr. Likens, the school principal, came to collect one of my classmates, a boy named Lonnie Huddle. Lonnie didn't want to go with Mr. Likens. I think he could see in the principal's face that something awful had happened. Lonnie started to cry, and pretty soon nearly every girl in class joined him. I watched Lonnie go, certain that because he had cried, he was going to get knocked around by the other boys at recess for being a sister. But the day ended without Lonnie's return. That evening, as my family gathered around the kitchen table for supper, Dad announced that Lonnie's father had been killed in the mine. After giving my mother a furtive eye, rewarded by a subtle nod of her head, he explained to me and my brother Jim that the company gave a widow of a deceased miner 2 weeks to make arrangements to get her husband buried and her family out of town. Her children, however, were not allowed back into the Coalwood School. These were the rules, he added, and that was all there was to it. "Lonnie won't come back?" I asked. I couldn't imagine recess without him. "Lonnie won't come back," Dad said, and went back to cutting up the ham Mom had slapped on his plate. Our conversation, such as it was over. Before I went to bed that night, my mother suggested that I make up a prayer for Lonnie and his mother and his brother and 2 sisters. "He's gone, Sonny," she said, after I said how much I liked playing tag with Lonnie and what a good reader he was in class. "It's the way of this place. Get used to it. God knows I have."
"But he's just down the street. I could go see him, tell him how sorry I am about his daddy."
"It isn't allowed," she said coldly. "He's cut off. You know about being cut off, don't you?" I did. I had grown up hearing that being cut off was the worst thing that could happen to anybody. It meant you could no longer use the company store, or go to the company doctor and dentist, or live in a company house. "Go ahead," she said. "Say your prayers." I did as I was told, finishing with, "God bless Lonnie, and tell him I miss him." "That's good," she said. "You've done what you can for him." She climbed up the ladder that leaned against the bunk bed and tucked my blanket so tightly around my shoulders I could barely breathe. Then she ran a rough hand over my forehead and then climbed back down. "Are you all right, Jim?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Jim said. "Did you say your prayers?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good boy." Mom turned out the light and closed the door behind her. Below me, Jim said, "Sister, if you start crying, I'll get up and smack you myself." I muttered defiance, but felt the tears coming despite myself. I fought them back, except for a few that escaped and trickled down my cheek. For a long time I lay awake, wondering what might happen to us if Dad got killed. We'd be cut off, ordered out of Coalwood. I couldn't imagine anything worse. A few days later, when I next walked down Main Street to the company store, which was known as the Big Store, I ventured past Lonnie's house. Another miner and his family had already moved in. Little kids I didn't know were playing on the front porch. I never saw or heard from Lonnie.